All right, good morning everybody. So I have to admit this is the second take for this video, so it's a little bit more cloudy than it was earlier. We did the first take. There was some technical difficulties and the first video was in slow-mo, which sounded like a bunch of T-Rexes walking around. So we're gonna redo this so you can actually understand me and hear what's going on. So it's not going to be a surprise, but this hive is doing excellent. So first of all, I'm gonna go ahead and knock on the front door with the smoke, let the bees know that we're here, and we're gonna come kind of check things out. And I'm just gonna leave my smoker there. It's nice and low. One thing on the entrance, so they're on the small entrance, the smallest entrance, and we wanna leave them closed down tight as long as they are not having a traffic jam. They have a good entrance size that they can defend while they're growing the family. We've been continuing to feed them for the last 2 weeks. This is actually the second week for this package bee, set of package bees. And we checked them after the first 4 days. The queen was laying well, and we've let them kind of rest and let her get started laying on her own for the last week and a half. And in that meantime, we've been feeding them 1-to-1 sugar syrup as they've been using it. They've been slowing down. They're using about a quart every 3 days right now because there's a lot of things blooming. And then we had given them some pollen patty originally, which they had finished off, and so we're going to refill that as well. So just going to open the hive. These guys are really relaxed and calm. They're a new family and new hive. So first thing, I pull the inner cover off and I just make sure that the queen is not on the inner cover, and then I lean this against the front of the hive so that those loose bees can get back into the box on their own. You can see I've already put the extra pollen patty here from the first go around of this video. Oh, get a little sunshine, perfect. All right, so doing this inspection, I'm gonna start with this outside frame, and I'm gonna take the first frame out very gently just to create space for us to work. In this case, there's just a couple of loose bees. I'm gonna set that here on this hive hanger, and then the next frame is actually the same. They're just maybe kind of starting a little bit of wax drawing. Okay, and now we're starting to get to the point where we got some bees. So now when I do my inspection, I'm looking for the queen on the first frame that I've opened up. So in this case, I'm going to take this frame, pull it out, and then I'm checking this first side of the frame that is just newly open to the light. And on this angle, usually you can see the queen really easily if she's there. And in the meantime, I'm holding this frame over top of the box in case bees or the queen were to fall off, she would fall into the box. So now I'm going to inspect this side that was freshly opened to the light, because that's the most likely spot. And I don't see her there, but we do have lots of nectar, fresh nectar here. You can kind of see the shine. All of this darker oranges and browns and yellows, that's all pollen. They've turned into bee bread. And you can see them out here, they're working on drawn wax, so they're doing really well. And then this side is the side that they're gonna get to next. So I put that frame in, open up the next one, and we are looking for the queen, if we can find her, but more importantly, we wanna make sure she's laying. We wanna find eggs. So checking this frame, and yep, there's the queen on the next frame in, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab her. All right. So now, see if you can find the queen. She's big and healthy. These are some really excellent queens. The family that runs the apiary that we get these package bees from, these are super healthy, strong hives when we get them. And you can see hopefully you can see there is all larvae here in this center section. They have a good kind of rainbow of pollen and bee bread on the outside. They have nectar outside of that, so this is a perfect setup. They have their protein and carbohydrates right next to where they're raising the brood, so the nurse bees can go get food and feed the babies, and that's going to allow them to expand quickly. That's why we supplement feed them. We want them to have pollen and sugar water so that they can expand the family, explode the family really quickly. They've got some making up to do so that they can get strong before summertime. Okay, so we found the queen and we found larvae, so we really don't have to do anything else. There's some capped brood on this side, but because the queen is there, I'll show you the next frame over. And I want to make sure I get that back in the same orientation that it was. I don't want to rotate the frames because that would be like somebody coming to your house and rotating the rooms around. Okay. So this side, we have a lot of brood. This, where it's sticking out further, what they're doing there, that's actually a drone cell. They've laid a drone inside of a regular worker cell, and so it has to be taller. If it's not wider, it has to be taller. So that's why that's sticking out. That's not a queen cell. And then this side, so we have a bunch of capped brood. I'm very gently going to blow on them. That's makes them think of predators there, so they kind of run away from the carbon dioxide in your breath. But you can see this is all capped brood. And there is some openings here, kind of some what would look like spotty brood normally. In this case, this is a new hive. They're just getting started laying. And so what that is just they've got some nectar and some resources kind of scattered about, and the queen's just laid around it. So in this case, that's nothing to worry about. As she gets older and the brood pattern gets more stable, they'll be turning over brood. And then all of that is will go away. There'll be much more full solid sheets of brood whenever the queen gets a little bit established in the weeks to come. So I'm not concerned about those little bit of what looks like spotty brood. Okay, so basically I found the queen. We've showed you some brood. We know she's laying well. She's laying in these large patterns and sections, so everything is doing really well. The last thing I want to show you is I'm going to bring this together. All right, so come on in here, and what we want to look at is how strong is this hive? How many frames of bees are there? So you can see all these little heads staring back at us, right? And so basically we have, and I know from earlier inspection that they're starting to draw wax on this side of this frame, so that's a half frame here, and then we had 1, 2, 3, 4 full frames and another half frame over here. So basically we have 5 frames of wax that they're working on. And you can see the little bee heads are covering both sides of this frame. So 1, 2, 3, 4 frames, full frames of bees. So that's kind of how they're working. So you, when these new broods start to hatch, you'll have a lot more bees and babies hatching to cover up the frames, and then that will help them. They'll draw the wax, and it's just kind of this back and forth where they, produce bees and draw wax, and they continue to expand as a larger and larger unit. So for right now, we've got basically 4.5 frames. We've got 4 frames of bees. Everything is growing and expanding, and the brood will be hatching here. Those first cycles will start hatching here in the next week or so. And then the family is going to kind of explode in population. So right now they're drawing wax, staying ahead of it. We're going to keep giving them the sugar syrup so they have a lot of nectar source to draw the wax. And for right now, they're doing great. When we get to 70%, we'll add the second box. So that might be next week or probably the week after we'll get the second deep on them. But everything looks good here. They're doing great. So I'm just going to put this outside frame back in. And then I'm going to center everything up, keep all the end bars tight so that the bee space is correct in between the frames. I'm going to put the inner cover back on. So again, like I said, I gave them some fresh pollen patty. It is going to be raining off and on for the next several days. So even when they have good food source, when it's raining and they're stuck in the hive, they still have protein and carbohydrates both. And then it's really important to keep these hives together with hive tie so that when we have winds and everything else that's going on, the hive is nice and secure. All right, that's all I've got. Thanks for watching.